From our 22 News Broadcast Center, this is 22 News in Focus.
Good afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Nick Oresco. November is National Veterans and Military Families Month, when the nation recognizes the roles and issues surrounding veterans, active military, and their families. Today on 22 News in Focus, we'll be talking with two organizations that provide support services and programs in our region. Joining me now is Gumersindo Gomez, Executive Director of the Bilingual Veterans Outreach Center of Massachusetts. Mr. Gomez also retired as a sergeant from the United States Army after serving 20 years. Thank you for joining us and being on this program today.
Well, thank you for having me.
Of course. So let's get right to it and some background on your organization. When and why was this organization that you founded?
This organization came about in 1986 when I was working or volunteering my time with the Veterans Outreach Center. And I saw a lot of Hispanics coming through that did not speak the language and needed services. And there was nobody there but myself, and I was just a coffee maker. So I united with other Vietnam veterans in Boston. We talked about it, and we created what it was, the Puerto Rican Veterans Association, which I opened up the doors in August 17th, 1987 in Springfield. And since, the organization has been there for 36 years.
What is the mission?
The mission of the organization is to serve veterans, of course, to ensure that all veterans that need services, need claims, need housing, jobs, whatever it might be, that we're there to serve those veterans.
How many of these outreach centers are in the state of Massachusetts?
There's 9 throughout the state, and I have 2 of those. One is in Pittsfield, and the other headquarters right here in Springfield.
And how many veterans and active military use your services every year, at least a rough estimate?
Through the year, we see over 10,000 veterans with families, and that's between Pittsfield and ourselves here in Springfield.
And where do those numbers rank? Is that a high amount of veterans and families that you see every year?
That's definitely a high amount, especially with the ones coming out now, but with the old veterans, as they have grown older, they realize that they need veteran services.
Now, who can get these services? Is it open to all military veterans and active military as well? Who can get involved in these services?
There's a catch to this.
Okay.
Many individuals get out of military services, and they are veterans because they serve, but until they register with the VA, they have no benefits. And they do not understand this. Many times they come to our agency looking for services, and the first question that we question, are you registered with the VA? If you're not, then I can't help you. You need to go back to the VA, register with the VA, now come back and we'll be able to assist you with the claims, especially claims and health services. Other needs as housing or jobs do not need to go to the VA service, but I encourage every one of them go and register with the VA.
Is that a simple process that they can do?
That's a simple process. There's a form called the 1010 Easy, which we do for them, and all they have to do is take it to the VA, and they're in. They get an appointment to do a physical. Once they do the physical, they get a primary doctor, and they continue receiving those health services.
So I want to ask you, how are you guys funded?
We're funded by the state. The state of Massachusetts give us yearly grants for us to provide those services.
Now, as mentioned, you retired from the Army after serving 20 years. That is quite a long time, and thank you for your service. Can you tell us about your career and experience in the Army?
Well, I came to New York City from Puerto Rico back in January 1966. And I found myself locked into a room, and every day going to work, coming back to my little room, and I just couldn't take it no more. And then I was seeing these guys in uniform in Times Square, and I said, I want to be one of those. So I found my first recruiting station, and I went to visit them, but I was only 17 and a half years old. He said, well, you need your mother here or father to sign for you. If not, you're going to have to wait until you're 18 years old. So I didn't have my mother. I didn't have no father there. So I waited 6 months. Once I turned 18, I was there. I want to go in.
Yeah.
And lucky me, I got accepted and went right into Fort Dix for my training. Once I finished my training in Fort Dix, my basic training in my AIT, that was the job that I was going to perform, I went straight to Vietnam, December 12th, 1966, and I was assigned to the 196th Light Infantry Brigade. From there, I got out of Vietnam, thank God, in one piece, even though there was other issues that I did not know I had until later on in years. I decided just to make it my career because I loved it.
So I'm sure that helped you wanting to, help veterans out, founding this organization that you have. Is that kind of the reason why you wanted to get involved with what you're doing now?
Well, to help veterans, you have to understand who they are, and you need to be one of them. Many times, and many individuals open up their books, they go through their books, they study, but it's not the same as if you are a veteran, you have wear that pair of combat boots, you know the feeling, and that individual and that female or male are your brothers. I myself, as a drill sergeant for many years, I created in the Army many, many soldiers. And I still feel that I'm responsible for those individuals because I was the one who made soldiers out of them.
And it all kind of comes full circle for you too.
Everyone, it's just fabulous when you get with these individuals and you talk about what went on when you were in uniform.
All right, well, after the break, we'll be discussing the services and programs offered by the bilingual Veterans Outreach Centers. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about services and programs for veterans and active military with Gumercindo Gomez, Executive Director of the Bilingual Veterans Outreach Centers of Massachusetts. Now, the Outreach Center provides many services and programs to help veterans and their families. The COVID-19 pandemic saw an increase in need across the country for mental health services. The VA and other health organizations have found that veterans are at high risk for substance abuse and suicide. Back here now, what types of mental health services do you provide in your organization?
We don't provide mental health services because the VA provides these services to the veterans with professionals. What we do when we come in a situation like that, we refer the individual, if he's a combat veteran, to the outreach the center here in West Springfield, the Veterans Center. And if he's not combat, then we get him into the VA for counseling.
Can you talk about this increase in demand, though, that we are seeing with these veterans and their families, especially from this COVID-19 pandemic, mental health issues, maybe substance abuse as well? What are you seeing in that realm?
Well, the situation that is happening, this new veterans that we have created, they're not coming out yet the way they should come out. It was just like us Vietnam veterans. It took us at least 20 years to understand and wanting to come out and seek for services. Maybe that these guys are locked up someplace working with a whole bunch of PTSDs and issues, and they're taking care of this pain with alcohol and drugs. Alcohol and drugs, they're there because they're suppressing the pain that they're going through.
I want to talk about the Veterans Affairs Supportive Housing Program and what that is.
This is a voucher that they get where a veteran who is below the poverty level can acquire an apartment where he can live in. They get counseling up to 6 months to ensure that they're going to keep that apartment. Many of them, it's kind of hard for them to stay there because they go back to the same situation they are because the counseling is not enough. It needs to be extensive. It needs to be taken up to years sometimes to really this individual to come to be what we need him to be.
What rental assistance programs do you provide for these veterans and their families?
Right now, I got 2 locations. We got the 40 Cass Street, which is an apartment building with 20 apartments for single veterans. Here is permanent, and they pay 30%, and the state pays 70%. I also have a transitional home where we house the homeless veterans that have problems for 2 years. Here, we take care of them. We ensure that they get the treatment that they need, and when they graduate from them, if they do, and we got space in our building, we move them to our building for permanent housing.
What about fuel assistance?
Fuel assistance, no, we don't provide that, but we network with the community and the city to ensure that we send those guys there for services.
So what is offered through the Veteran Services Program?
Excuse me?
What is offered through the Veterans Services Program? What can they expect?
The biggest thing is their claims, because this is what's going to give them security, going to put money in their pocket. That is our strongest services within the outreach center. I have at least throughout the state, I'm the president for Vietnam Veterans of America of the state, and I have 10 VSOs throughout the state giving the services to veterans. Once we stabilize them with money in their pocket, we can take care of the other issues that they need.
Now, the need for food assistance is also rising. How do you help people looking for pantries or other meal programs? Obviously, veterans and their families need to eat too. What do you guys do to help with that?
Well, we got a list of pantries and places where they can go, and we provide that list to the individual. Up in Boston Road, there is a center just for veterans where they can get food once a week.
Holidays, of course, are approaching too. Thanksgiving next week now. What do you do to help them during the holiday season and provide food and that sort of aspect?
Well, right now I got a couple organizations that every year join forces with us, and they provide our hams and our turkeys and the mixing for their holiday. So we help them out through that. Same with Christmas. When Christmas come around, there's other organizations that come together to help veterans.
Are these events or just locations that they can go to pick up the food? How does that work?
No, it comes to them.
Okay.
They bring it right to their apartment, right to the transitional home, so they have to go no place to get that assistance.
And I'm sure the demand for that is high. Do you see a lot of those veterans and their families actually using those resources?
Well, with the little money that they have, this supplements, and they can save that $100 that they were going to use for the festivities, and they can use that money in other resources that they need.
All right. Well, some veterans aren't aware of the many benefits available to them from the government. We'll have that conversation when we come back. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus, and today we're talking about programs and services for veterans and military families through the bilingual Veterans Outreach Centers. There has been a lot of publicity surrounding water contamination at Marine Corps Base Camp Lejeune. Many television ads are asking veterans and their families to sign up for lawsuits. I want to ask about these lawsuits now. What do you know about them, and should veterans actually be signing up for something like this?
If you're a veteran, leave them alone.
Okay.
Don't touch them.
Okay.
There's a lot of scam out there, and the situation is if you get to a lawsuit, You must have a condition that was developed because of the contamination. And if you get awarded any money, the lawyer is going to take X amount, they're talking even 50% of this money. And if you are receiving awards monies from the VA, you have to pay back that money to the VA, to include the one that the lawyer kept. Let's say, for example, you get $100,000, that lawyer keeps 50. Well, you're gonna pay your 50 plus his 50 out of your award that the VA is receiving, you're receiving from the VA. That's why I advise, leave it alone, come to the outreach center so we can give you information on how to go about this. This is an issue that the VA is not touching. Nothing that has to do with the VA. So you cannot put a claim to the VA with it. But we can advise you better ways with less money to pay for lawyers.
Are you getting a lot of questions about this?
There's a lot of questions coming through for people calling on the phone. But again, if the individual ain't got a condition that affected him from the contamination water, there's not a chance that you can get any monies.
So you mentioned this is a scam, it's no good. What are you telling the veterans about this, and how can veterans and their families be protected from scams like this?
As I say, leave it alone, come to the outreach center, get to a VSO that has been trained to deal with this and it's got the right information. These lawyers, all they want is to hook you. Once you get hooked with them, as a matter of fact, I got 2 in the state and I can't get them off. They sign the paperwork, they're in.
Is there a way to know what is a scam and what isn't? I mean, is there a way to tell?
Well, if the individual, that lawyer is charging you 40 or 50% of what you're going to get,
It's
you
a
better
scam.
believe that's a scam.
Okay. Is the VA offering any benefits, and how does someone apply and qualify for a benefit?
Well, you come to the office. Again, first step is get to the VA.
Okay.
Become a member of the VA. Get enrolled with the VA. Once you have that, then you come and see us, because from there we'll do the paperwork. We're going to require quite a lot of paperwork, especially coming from doctors to testify that the condition you're asking for is certified by a medical physician. If you just come with a mouth, with a word of mouth, not going to work. Not going to work. Because at the center, in my VSOs, will not turn any claim into the VA unless that claim is complete. That way, it gets to the VA, the certifies true, bingo, you get your money. If not, it'll take years. Many veterans are doing it on their own.
So bottom line here, look with what you're filling out, look at all these scams, because obviously you don't want to become a victim, especially veterans and their families, something like this, right?
No.
It's not good.
No, not good, not good.
I want to talk about the PACT Act. What is that?
The PACT Act is a law that went through, and this is specifically for the Iraqi, Afghan vets. They were contaminated with burn pits and other contamination. This will go into effect this coming January, even though you can do your claim right now, but if you get awarded, you won't see money until this coming January. And I advise every Iraqi veteran or Afghanistan, get a VSO. Come through our office so we can prepare your claims.
Are you working with any veterans who may have been exposed or become ill to any exposure?
Yes, we got quite a few that have come to the outreach center, and we have these claims into the VA right now. They're just waiting to get approved and start getting paid after January.
So what's that process? Just the approval process and filling out some paperwork?
Filling out the paperwork, the claim in my office where our VSOs or any VSO, sent to the VA, they'll look through it. Remember, you have to have a sickness. Not because you were exposed and you have no sicknesses, you're not going to be awarded. You must have a sickness that ties into the contamination. And that's very important.
We talked about the PACT Act, also Chapter 225. What is that?
Chapter 225 is the VA summary of benefits. If an individual wants to know what benefits he's got coming from the VA, then get into a computer, type in VA Chapter 225, and the summary comes up, and you can educate yourself to those benefits that you're eligible for.
How does someone become eligible?
Again, to become eligible, you get to the VA first. And I continue to repeat that because it's very important. Then you see a VSO if you have any complaints that happen to you in military services. That is the right way. Don't try to do it on your own. You're not qualified. You think you are, but in reality, you do not know the ins and out of a claim. And when you got a national VSO representing you, this individual has authority to go into your records at the VA and find out what's in and what's not, and what needs to be put into those records.
Where are you guys located?
We're located at 281 Franklin Street here in Springfield.
Easy access?
Easy access, bus line, very simple to get there, and with telephone numbers 413-731-0194.
All right. I'll have some final words right after the break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You've been watching 22 News in Focus. Today we've been discussing programs and services offered by the Bilingual Veterans Outreach Centers of Massachusetts with Gumercindo Gomez, the organization's executive director. Thank you again for being on the program, and I do want to ask one more time that address to your organization for veterans and their families.
Yes, I'm going to do it slowly because I want to make sure that if you're in need and you're a veteran or you're a widow of a veteran, come and see us at 281 Franklin Street, Springfield, Massachusetts, and our telephone number is 413-731-0194.
All right, great information. Thank you very much again for being on the program, and thank you for your service. And thank you at home for watching. If you missed any of it, you can watch it in full on our website at WWLP.com. From all of us here at 22 News, have a great day.
From our 22 News Broadcast Center, this is 22 News in Focus.
Good afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Nick Oresco. As part of National Veterans and Military Families Month, we're talking with local organizations that provide support and services to veterans, active military, and of course their families. Soldier On is a nationally recognized nonprofit organization working with multiple agencies to provide veterans with shelter and support with dignity and respect. Joining me now is Bruce Buckley, the CEO of Soldier On. Bruce, thank you for being on the program today.
Thank you for having me, Nick.
I want to start off with some background of Soldier On, what it is, and how veterans can get involved.
Well, Soldier On is a Massachusetts-based nonprofit that works with veterans who are homeless and at risk of homelessness. And we've been around since 1994 and have really continued to grow and evolve as the needs of the veterans have grown and evolved and as our agency has changed. So, what we do is work in a lot of different capacities with the veterans and their needs in, Western Mass and throughout the Northeast, actually.
What is your mission and maybe some of the goals that you guys try to key in on for veterans and, of course, their families?
Well, I think to provide veterans with permanent housing is a simple answer. But stable housing in a stable situation and access to all the benefits that they're eligible for, and beyond that, really access to all that they need to be successful in life.
How many veterans do you usually serve and try to help a year?
Well, we have a variety of programs, which I'm sure we'll talk about some of them, but in total it'd be between 4,000 and 5,000 veterans and their families each year.
And how are you guys funded?
Well, primarily by the VA, but we have, I think, about 30 different funding streams. And the State Department of Veteran Services provides a nice amount of funding, and a lot of private funding we receive, as well as a variety of other funding sources.
Now, of course, there are a lot of programs out there to help veterans and their families. What makes some of your programs unique to Soldier On?
Well, I think what's unique to us at this point is we've really evolved into a community. And many of the veterans that we serve and have this need live with us forever. And it's not just giving them a building and an apartment, but it's really a community. And we've actually added columbariums to many of our permanent housing properties, which is to inter the ashes of someone who passes away as a result of them really being with us forever.
Are there other agencies that you guys work with?
Lots of them. I mean, I almost hate to list one because there's literally dozens and dozens that we work with. I think partnering is one of the things we continue to do that makes us able to grow and serve more veterans in more ways.
Now, does someone have to be referred to one of your programs, or can they contact the organization directly?
No, they can call us directly on our website, and we can, give out the website and the number maybe at the end or now if you'd like. But
we can do it right now, yeah.
Sure. It's 866-806-8449. That'll get you a formerly homeless veteran who answers the phone in our call center, and we'll connect you with the services that you need and help determine your eligibility. And then our website is www.wesoldieron.org, and you can access us through that as well.
Many services you mentioned you provide. Any charge to those? No.
I mean, our permanent housing, there's rent, and it's subsidized, and the veteran may have to pay a portion of their rent, but generally speaking, no. Otherwise, there's no charge to the veteran.
Now, how beneficial are veteran-to-veteran relationships in helping a veteran achieve stability and wellness?
It's critical, and we've developed a peer system that we use in our SSVF program. And beyond, we employ a lot of the veterans that have come through our program. So a lot of formerly homeless veterans work for us. And I think that's the key. Not only are they veterans, but they've been in the same situation. And they work with them not just on a counseling basis, but as well on a practical basis. They'll get them to appointments. They'll help them fill out forms. They'll really become a friend as well as a kind of a counselor and a support system.
We've been dealing with this COVID-19 pandemic for going on 3 years now. Have you seen an increase in demand for help for veterans during this period of time, maybe their families as well? What have you seen throughout this 3-year-long process of COVID?
Well, it's interesting. We've seen, on one level, the VA was able to expand how we could provide housing services. So we added hotels as a way that would never be allowed before, but that was keeping someone safe and separate. I think that's a great thing because it did allow us to really, keep COVID under control. I think the downside of that is isolation. And that really is sort of in many of our lives, not just the homeless veterans, but that's been an issue that we've had to really address because of more isolated situations, and that's exacerbated many of the issues that they struggle with.
Which kind of goes back to that previous question of veteran-to-veteran relationships. Obviously, a group of veterans is maybe better than just a one-on-one or a solo veteran. Is a group better, do you think, a group session?
Well, I think there's better. I wouldn't go down that road probably, but I would say that it takes all those pieces to make it really successful. I think getting into a group and exposing yourself is maybe not the first step sometimes because you're kind of holding a lot in. So the one-on-one, once the relationship is correct and is functional, that I think that's the first step, and then the rest will follow.
All right, we'll continue our conversation when we return. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back back to 22 News in Focus. Today we're talking about the programs and services provided by veterans organizations. Soldier On with Bruce Buckley, the CEO of Soldier On. There are many reasons that people become homeless, but for veterans, some of that stems from combat trauma, PTSD, substance abuse, and other mental health issues. Let's talk about the transitional housing and supportive services provided by Soldier On. Before the break, or at least during the break, you mentioned there are different types of housing. Can you talk about that different type?
Yeah, just briefly, our initial housing situation was transitional housing. So that's really a program which you can enter for up to 2 years and live with us in a transitional housing property. Since then, we've developed a lot of permanent housing because many of the men and women that we serve really need a community to support them for the rest of their life.
So what is offered at the housing location at the VA Medical Center at Leeds?
So we have both transitional housing for men, we have a separate transitional housing for women, and then we have 44 units of one-bedroom apartments or permanent housing. And that's what's located on the VA campus in Leeds.
How does someone get admitted there?
Well, transitional is, you contact us at our 800 number, you contact us through the website, or you reach out even directly, possibly, up at the site if you go to the VA. And transitional would be the first step, generally speaking, and that would be a pretty easy access as long as you're eligible. To go to the next step, if it was the right fit for you, would be permanent housing, and that's more of a process that it's affordable housing in the requirements and the process that you go through.
What kind of demand are you seeing for those services?
Well, I think the transitional is filling up. I mean, it goes up and down. Some of it's seasonal, some of it's weather driven. The permanent housing, we've got 191 apartments in Western Mass, and they're full in a waiting list basically at all times. So the need is what we have and beyond.
So, as you mentioned, you also offer transitional living opportunities which have become national models for home ownership for veterans. How many of these housing developments are there and where are they located? I know you briefly mentioned.
Right, so those would be the permanent housing facilities. And in Western Mass, we have 2 properties in Pittsfield, one that's entirely for female veterans, and then another property of 39 units. And then we have a property in Leeds, another property in CHICOPEE, and as well as in Agawam.
Are social or medical services or transportation offered from these locations and services?
Yes. So transportation, we've developed a fairly extensive transportation system. We've got 15 vehicles that we operate from a call center at the intermodal station in Pittsfield, Mass. And that really brings veterans in our program and beyond our program to a lot of appointments and other type of needs that the veterans have. And we employ primarily formerly homeless veterans to do the driving. Additionally, we have on-site case management, a wellness director, financial literacy, legal support, and I could keep talking. But that's really, we've expanded to try to meet all the needs we've encountered.
Now, women veterans may have specific medical and housing needs. Some women vets are mothers with custody of their own children. How do you address the housing and health needs for women veterans?
So we have a very separate program for female veterans, both transitional and in permanent housing. And it's entirely female driven. It's staffed with females, and the main reason is many of the women that end up in our program have suffered military sexual trauma. They may have suffered sexual trauma before the military and after the military if they've been in difficult situations. So we have a very separate program, and it's been successful. Our permanent housing is always full, and the transitional is generally full with 16 female veterans.
And of course, no matter women or men, veterans, of course, substance abuse, PTSD is a major issue after coming out of service. What are you seeing with that, and how much of an issue is that?
Well, it's a big part of what we need to address. I think I look at those issues, not so much PTSD, but the substance abuse, the mental health issues, as the symptom. And there's an underlying cause, and that's really what we need to try to get to. And I think certainly PTSD from military service, sometimes it's not from military service, but that trauma isolates the men and women that we serve. And I think underneath it all, isolation is what we address first of all and make a community for the men and women in our program.
Is it a problem, you think, of reluctancy, these veterans wanting to get help, and maybe they don't want to get help because they don't think there's a problem? How do you help with that and make sure that they do get the help that they do need?
Well, I think reluctancy is almost always in the equation. I think it's somewhat natural, and then I think the military and kind of that approach and the sternness that you take out as I'm supposed to be tough, and eventually you're not able to keep going on your own. So that's what we do. It's, again, I don't want to oversimplify it because there's a lot of pieces, but it's really about the relationships and the inclusiveness in being part of a larger community. And we see it every day where that breaks down and then they really begin to heal themselves.
Is there maybe a one-step process or step one of them getting help?
I think in my world, step one is reaching out or us finding you. And, we go into jails, we go into shelters, we go a lot of places and really kind of initiate the relationship, or they initiate with us. But it's all about the relationship. And that's the magic of what makes it work.
All right, Soldier On also offers employment treatment and other support programs. We'll find out about those right after the break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus, and today we're talking about the programs and services provided by veterans organization Soldiers On with Bruce Buckley, the CEO of Soldier On. So what is the Supportive Services for Veteran Families program?
Well, we call that SSVF, just to oversimplify the acronym. But SSVF is really the largest, in a way, one of the largest things that we do. And we're located in Massachusetts with SSVF, as well as New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and New York. And SSVF is a program funded by the VA that allows us to work with veterans and their families if they're at risk of homelessness, if they're currently homeless, if they're at risk of eviction. And we intervene in the situation, and we're able to pay rent, utilities, security deposits for the veteran, and then begin to address their situation that put them in that less than stable housing situation.
What are the eligibility requirements and application process?
Well, the process is, in our situation, you meet with a case manager. We have a mobile model, so we're not big on offices. We're big on everybody has a RAV4, and you go to the veteran. It's not the veteran's job to come to us. It's our job to go to the veteran. And in that capacity, it's basically you work with a case manager. It's based on your income and with the local regional AMI, the average median income. You need to be below 80 or 50% of that, depending on the situation. And then it's you served 1 day in the United States military or as a reservist. So a lot of individuals who don't even call themselves veterans many times are eligible for our services, and it's more of an education piece to get that knowledge out there.
What does the Soldier On Women's program offer?
Well, the Women's program offers, again, a very separate environment for the women veterans. It offers, obviously, all of the same pieces that we provide for men. It offers counseling, it offers housing, it offers meals and food, it offers transportation, A wellness director is regularly working with the women. We have a financial literacy program to work with an individual on their credit scores, which can be a barrier to moving forward in life. We have legal support. Really, we've added a lot of pieces that we've seen the need arise in our serving the veteran.
Eligibility requirements and application process, how does it work for that, or is it the same as any other program?
It's basically the same as the other programs.
Another program you guys offer is the Veteran Justice Partnership Program. How does that work?
So that program works in a couple ways. Primarily, we're involved every week with the Veterans Court, based usually in Holyoke. And that's a court that's been designed across the state that works with veterans who are in the court system. And it's an intervention program where we try to get the veteran with the judge, the DA, all of the folks, the VA and the DA, and we work to say, is jail the best for this situation, or can they come to Soldier On, live with us, even on probation or sometimes parole, and begin addressing their issue not going through the prison system.
Now, Soldier On does have an incarcerated veterans program. What is that?
Well, it's a piece of what I just said. We also are regularly in the jails. I actually had dinner, kind of a holiday dinner, in the Hampden County Jail last night. So we work in the jails in Western Mass, and often in Eastern Mass we're called in. And again, it would be to steer a veteran who's getting out of jail into a plan and a path. We may often provide the housing, and that program has really been successful in addressing those who have those struggles.
There's a process in jail. What's the process once they get out of jail?
Well, I think they come into our program, often probation and parole is part of it, but otherwise they're really in the program with all the same rules and regulations as the other men and women in the program.
Do you offer life skills programs, and what is involved with that?
Yeah, life skills is kind of a broad term, obviously, but the life skills is really developed to say basic life skills, even shopping, cooking, living independently. We address those if the need is there. Education, we connect a lot of veterans with their VA benefits that allow them to go on in their education. We have this financial literacy program that's funded by Freddie Mac that allows us to work with veterans and their credit scores, and we've had a lot of veterans who've bought homes as part of that process. We have the legal support. And then we offer a lot of job opportunities within Soldier On. So many of our employees are veterans that came through our program.
So it's like basic necessities, right? Once they are out, they can do stuff on their own, right?
Yeah, it's being able to live and make good decisions and having all the resources that you're eligible for.
Now, what types of job training, education, and employment search services can veterans get through Soldier On?
Well, I think a common one is they work with us. They become employees with us. We're connected to all the local employment agencies, the state employment agencies and Division of Unemployment, and work to find the avenues, the skill set, and match the skill set with the jobs that are out there. And then the training and the education for the training, we help connect the veteran with and even provide transportation and support.
Website, is there a website that they can get onto and find out more information about this?
Yeah, I think you go to our website, www.wesoldieron.org, and once you're there, it's pretty well you're able to navigate through all the pieces in there.
All right, I'll have some final words right after the break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Today we've been talking about the programs and services offered by Soldier On with the organization's CEO, Bruce Buckley. Bruce, thank you again for being here. Is there a quick phone number that you can give out for people to contact you guys?
Sure. Any veteran in need or anyone who knows a veteran in need that would like to connect us to that individual, 866-806-8449. will get you connected to us, and then we can begin the process of helping out.
All right, Bruce, thank you again. Great information there. And thank you at home for watching. If you missed any of it, you can watch it in full on our website at WWLP.com. From all of us here at 22 News, enjoy your Sunday.